from a deadly assassin to a player who fought a grizzly bear. These are the scariest players in NFL history. And first, a guy so terrifying he was nicknamed Dracula. Jack Lambert was a linebacker who didn't just play football. He brought a whole new level of ferocity to the game. Known as Dracula in cleats, Lambert was famous for his toothless snarl and a look that could practically tackle you on its own. And trust me, this guy didn't just hit hard. He made entire teams think twice before lining up against him. One of Lambert's most legendary moments came in Super Bowl X. The Steelers were facing off against the Cowboys, and when the Dallas safety Cliff Harris tried to rub it in after a missed field goal, Lambert didn't hesitate. He stormed over and body slammed Harris right there on the field. Yep, he made it clear, mess with my team and you're going down. Lambert's intensity didn't stop there. He went on to lead the Steelers to 4 Super Bowl titles, all while putting fear in the hearts of his opponents every time he hit the field. But if you thought Jack Lambert was fierce, wait until you hear about another Steelers linebacker who took intimidation to the next level. Where Lambert had that classic grit, James Harrison was all about sheer, unstoppable power. Standing only 6 feet tall, he might not have looked like your typical NFL powerhouse, but once he hit the field, there was no question. Harrison was a human wrecking ball. Nicknamed Debo after the notorious enforcer from the movie Friday, Harrison played like he was on a mission to make every hit memorable. At just 6 feet tall, he didn't have the towering height you'd expect from a defensive nightmare, but he made up for it with sheer muscle and grit. His opponents quickly learned that size doesn't matter when you're up against someone who treats every play like a personal vendetta. One of Harrison's most unforgettable moments happened in the 2009 Super Bowl, where he pulled off the longest interception return in Super Bowl history. Right before halftime, Harrison snagged an interception at the goal line and bulldozed his way down the field for a whopping 100 yards, leaving a trail of Cardinal players in his wake. It was part skill, part endurance, and all heart, showing the world just how relentless he could be. Harrison didn't hold back, even against friends. In a 2010 game against the Browns, he famously took out not 1, but 2 of Cleveland's wide receivers in a single game, hitting Josh Cribbs and Mohamed Massaquoi with bone-rattling tackles that had everyone talking. And while some called his style too aggressive, Harrison stood by his approach, once saying, "I didn't want to injure them, but I wanted them to hurt." For Harrison, football was about sending a message, and he made sure his opponents got it loud and clear. But just when you thought linebackers couldn't get more intense, enter Ray Lewis, a man whose name alone struck fear across the NFL. If other players were intimidating on the field, Lewis brought it before the game even started. His pregame entrance was a full-on spectacle, with smoke and flames as he emerged from the tunnel like a gladiator stepping into the arena. And once that dance was over, everyone knew they were in for 60 minutes of pure, bone-crushing football. Lewis's career is packed with legendary moments, but one that stands out happened against the Tennessee Titans in the 2000 playoffs. With the game tied and the Titans driving, Lewis came through with a monster interception, picking off Steve McNair and taking it all the way to the end zone. That play sealed the Ravens' spot in the AFC Championship and showcased exactly why no one wanted to go up against him. And let's talk about his hits. Lewis didn't just tackle, he made sure his opponents felt every ounce of his force. His hits were so powerful that sports science once broke down how his shoulder pads absorbed 50% of the impact, sparing his opponents from literal broken bones. But with that in mind, wide receivers would think twice about going across the middle when number 52 was lurking. Ray Lewis wasn't just playing football, he was declaring war every single time he stepped onto that field. But if you thought Ray Lewis was intense, Jack Tatum took things to an even darker level. Known as the Assassin, Tatum played with a ruthlessness that still echoes through NFL history. Where others hit hard, Tatum hit with the ferocity that left opponents questioning if they'd ever step back on the field. Tatum didn't just play defense, he enforced it. The Assassin. Tatum earned his nickname by delivering hits that went beyond intimidating. They were downright ruthless. He became the NFL's ultimate enforcer, someone who struck fear into receivers who dared cross his path. Tatum's presence alone was enough to make even the bravest players hesitate. One of his most infamous moments came in a 1978 preseason game against the New England Patriots. On an incomplete pass over the middle, Tatum collided with wide receiver Darryl Stingley, and it hit so fierce it left Stingley paralyzed from the chest down. The fact that it happened during a meaningless preseason game left fans and players stunned, but for Tatum, this was simply part of the game. He didn't apologize, and he made it clear he didn't view himself as a villain despite public outcry. For Tatum, his brutal hits were part of his duty on the field. Tatum's idea of a good hit was one where the victim woke up on the sideline seeing stars. His hits were so devastating that even Hall of Fame running back Earl Campbell felt it when they collided head-on. After one particularly brutal tackle, Campbell admitted, "I felt the shot go down to the heels of my feet." Tatum's approach was simply stop the ball carrier by any means necessary. And in doing so, he left a legacy as one of the most terrifying players to ever step onto the gridiron. But if Jack Tatum was the definition of ruthless, then Lawrence Taylor was the embodiment of pure, unrestrained chaos. Known as LT, Taylor wasn't just another linebacker. He was a game wrecker who hunted quarterbacks with a fierce, unstoppable drive. Facing Taylor didn't just mean gearing up for a rough game. It meant bracing for impact, knowing that at any moment he could shatter not just plays, but entire careers. LT didn't just redefine what it meant to play linebacker. He made entire offenses rethink their strategies. Taylor was an absolute nightmare for quarterbacks, a relentless force who could break through the line with terrifying speed and power. For Taylor, every snap was an opportunity to dismantle his opponent's game plan, one bone-jarring hit at a time. The moment that truly showcased Taylor's dominance came on a Monday night in 1985, a play so devastating it changed the game forever. The Washington Redskins tried a flea flicker, a trick play meant to catch Taylor off guard, but LT saw right through it. He blitzed with ruthless precision, hitting quarterback Joe Theismann so hard that both bones in Theismann's lower legs snapped, leaving him writhing on the field in agony. The impact of that single hit not only ended Theismann's career, but also forced teams at every level to rethink how they protected their quarterbacks. Suddenly, the left tackle position, which guards a quarterback's blind side, became one of the most crucial roles in football, all because of LT's sheer ferocity. Taylor's game wasn't just about power, though. It was also about his mindset. Legendary coach Bill Belichick, who served as Taylor's defensive coordinator, once said, "What makes LT so great, what makes him so aggressive, is his total disregard for his body." Taylor played as though he was invincible, throwing himself at opponents with no hesitation, no fear, and that fearlessness paid off. With 10 Pro Bowls, 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards, and the rare honor of being one of only 2 defensive players to ever win the NFL MVP, Taylor's legacy goes beyond stats. It's etched in the minds of anyone who dared to face him. For anyone unlucky enough to line up against him, Lawrence Taylor wasn't just a player. He was a wrecking ball, a force of nature that could single-handedly unravel entire offenses. Facing LT wasn't just about strategy, it was about survival. One might survive the brutal force of Taylor, but no one wanted to face Dick Butkus, a sledgehammer with a mission. Known as one of the most fearsome linebackers in NFL history, Butkus played the game with a raw aggression that bordered on animalistic. Opponents who lined up against him knew one thing: every play was an invitation to be hit harder than they'd ever been hit before. Butkus's mindset was brutal and relentless. He wasn't just there to make tackles, he was there to dominate. One of his pregame rituals involved manufacturing rage, finding anything that would make him angry, even if it meant convincing himself that the other team was laughing at him. By the time he stepped onto the field, he was a ticking time bomb, ready to unleash havoc on anyone unfortunate enough to be in his path. One legendary moment that captures Butkus's intensity came during a matchup against the Green Bay Packers. Packers running back MacArthur Lane later said, "If I had a choice, I'd sooner go one-on-one with the grizzly bear than with Butkus." And that wasn't an exaggeration. Butkus had a way of instilling fear that ran deep, turning routine plays into battles for survival. Every time he hit someone, it was like he was aiming to put them out of the game, to make them regret ever stepping onto his field. Throughout his career, Butkus racked up an astounding number of tackles, leading his Bears defense in tackles for 8 consecutive seasons. His intensity didn't just make him effective, it made him legendary. He was known for playing through injuries that would sideline most players, embodying a toughness that was rare, even by NFL standards. yards. For Butkus, football wasn't just a game, it was a war, and he was determined to win it with every bone-crunching tackle. With his primal playing style and relentless aggression, Dick Butkus didn't just play defense, he redefined it. For anyone facing him, it wasn't just about getting past a linebacker, it was about surviving one of the most intimidating forces the game had ever seen. Next up is a player who turned every matchup into a nightmare, Dick Night Train Lane. Lane didn't just play defense, he played with an aggression so fierce that the NFL had to create new rules to contain him. Known for his signature Night Train necktie tackle, Lane would go for a player's head and neck, wrapping them up and throwing them to the ground in a way that looked more like something out of a brawl than a football game. It was so brutal that the league eventually banned the move, but by then, Lane had already made his mark as one of the most terrifying tacklers to ever step on the field. One infamous hit happened in 1961 when he leveled Rams running back John Arnett by the face mask while Arnett was running full speed. The impact left Arnett motionless on the field, a haunting image that etched Lane's reputation even deeper into NFL lore. But this wasn't a rare sight for Night Train, it was his norm. Lane tackled with a viciousness that made opposing players think twice about coming his way, knowing that one wrong move could leave them seeing stars. Lane's relentlessness wasn't limited to his tackling style. He was also a ball hawk with a killer instinct. In 1952, his rookie season, he set the still-standing NFL record for most interceptions in a single season, snagging 14 picks in just 12 games. He didn't just defend passes, he hunted them down, using his speed and instincts to make quarterbacks pay dearly for underestimating him. For Dick Night Train Lane, defense was personal. His tackles were ruthless, his interceptions legendary, and his impact on the game undeniable. Facing him wasn't just about trying to make a play, it was about surviving the wrath of one of the most unyielding defenders in NFL history. Just when you thought you'd seen it all, along came Mike Singletary, a player who could terrify opponents with a single look. Known as Samurai Mike, he brought an intense, laser-focused presence to the field that went beyond brute force. It was psychological warfare. Singletary's eyes were his most powerful weapon, burning through helmets and daring anyone to challenge him. When he locked in on you, it was like staring down a predator, knowing there was no way out. Singletary was the cornerstone of the Chicago Bears' 1985 defense, one of the most feared units in NFL history. His leadership and intensity made every snap a battle, and he wasn't just about big hits. He played with a level of discipline and intelligence that elevated his entire team. Opponents quickly learned that once Singletary was in position, there was no escaping his grasp. One game that exemplified Singletary's dominance was the 1985 NFC Championship against the Los Angeles Rams. Singletary anchored a defense that shut down the Rams completely and ensuring the Bears' path to the Super Bowl. Singletary was everywhere, reading plays before they happened and delivering punishing tackles that left the Rams reeling. His intensity was contagious, and the entire defense fed off his energy, turning them into an unstoppable force. For Singletary, it wasn't just about stopping the offense. It was about breaking their will. His steely gaze and fierce demeanor made him a living nightmare on the field. Opponents didn't just have to contend with his physicality. They had to face the mental challenge of going up against a man who seemed to see through every move they made. Mike Singletary wasn't just a linebacker. He was the spirit of a defense that terrorized the league, a force that reminded everyone watching that football is as much a mind game as it is physical. Well, if Mike Singletary was the mind of a defense, Deacon Jones was the wrecking ball, an unstoppable force whose only goal was to dismantle anything in his way. Known as the Secretary of Defense, Jones didn't just play defensive end. He invented the concept of the sack, and he did it with a ferocity that left quarterbacks dreading the moment they took the snap. Jones was relentless, a whirlwind of power and speed who attacked with one thing in mind: destruction. One of his most feared moves was the head slap, a technique so devastating that it was later banned by the NFL. Jones would strike his opponent across the helmet, stunning them just long enough for him to blast past and zero in on the quarterback. It wasn't just a move, it was a calculated act of intimidation designed to break his opponent's concentration and leave them vulnerable. With Jones, it wasn't just about getting to the quarterback, it was about delivering a hit that left a lasting impression. In the 1967 season, Jones recorded an astonishing 26 sacks, a number that would still be impressive in today's game. While sacks weren't an official stat back then, Jones's impact was undeniable. His sheer dominance on the line helped transform the Los Angeles Rams' defense into the fearsome foursome, a unit that struck terror into offenses across the league. He didn't just get to the quarterback. He dismantled plays, disrupted strategies, and left opposing teams scrambling to adapt. Deacon Jones didn't just play defense, he redefined it. His ferocious style, combined with an unmatched drive, made him one of the most intimidating players in NFL history. Facing him was more than just a challenge. It was a battle for survival against a man who turned the sack into an art form and made sure every quarterback knew that when Deacon Jones was on the field, no one was safe. Next up is a man whose name is forever etched in NFL history for bringing chaos, brutality, and pure aggression into every game. Mean Joe Greene, the cornerstone of the Pittsburgh Steelers' steel curtain defense, is celebrated as one of the most formidable defensive tackles in NFL history. Standing 6'4" and weighing 275 pounds, his combination of strength, agility, and tenacity redefined the defensive tackle position. Selected 4th overall in the 1969 NFL Draft by the Pittsburgh Steelers, Greene's arrival marked a turning point for the franchise. His relentless pursuit of excellence and intimidating presence on the field set the tone for the Steelers' dominance throughout the 1970s. Greene's exceptional performance earned him the NFL Defensive Player of the Year award twice, in 1972 and 1974, highlighting his consistent dominance on the field. As a key leader of the Steel Curtain, Greene played an instrumental role in securing 4 Super Bowl titles for the Steelers during the 1970s, solidifying the team's legacy as a defensive powerhouse. Greene's aggressive play and leadership not only defined the Steelers' defense during his tenure, but also set a standard for defensive tackles in the NFL. His legacy is enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, where he was inducted in 1987. You might think you've seen it all, but what you are about to witness is a whole different level of terror and pain. Our top 10 players redefined what it means to be scary in the world of football. Starting with a player so aggressive, he single-handedly destroys offensive lines. Aaron Donald isn't just a defensive tackle. He's a game changer, a juggernaut who makes elite linemen look like they're playing in slow motion. Donald combines brute strength with astonishing speed, creating a terrifying combination that keeps offensive coordinators up at night. At 6'1" and 280 pounds, he might not be the biggest player on the line, but his explosiveness and sheer determination make him virtually unstoppable. One unforgettable moment came during the 2022 Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals. With the game on the line and the Bengals driving, Donald broke through the line on a critical 4th down, wrapping up Joe Burrow and sealing the Rams' victory. It wasn't just a sack, it was a statement, a reminder to the entire NFL that when Aaron Donald sets his sights on you, there's no escape. Donald's stats are staggering. Multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards, over 100 career sacks, and countless double and triple teams that still struggle to contain him. But what really sets him apart is his ability to wreck entire game plans single-handedly. Offensive lines that can usually hold their ground are bulldozed by Donald, left scrambling as he powers through blocks like they're paper thin. Aaron Donald doesn't just play football, he turns it into a battle of will, making every snap a moment of suspense for anyone on the other side of the ball. For quarterbacks and linemen alike, facing Donald isn't just about strategy, it's about survival. Next up is a man who embodied the word scary in all its forms. He was so brutal and ruthless, many called him a killer under the helmet. Known for his ruthless and sometimes unhinged playing style, Bill Romanowski didn't just aim to win. He aimed to intimidate, humiliate, and downright punish his opponents. His reputation wasn't just built on his hits. It was built on a fierce mentality that made him one of the most feared linebackers in NFL history. Romanowski's approach to the game was brutal and relentless. One incident that stands out, where he delivered a hit on quarterback Rich Gannon so vicious that it left Gannon visibly shaken. But Romanowski wasn't done. In the following plays, he continued to go after Gannon, making it clear that he wasn't just defending, he was hunting. Known for pushing boundaries, Romanowski often played with an intensity that crossed into controversy. In one infamous training camp incident with the Denver Broncos, he broke the eye socket of a teammate in a brawl, a testament to his win at all costs mentality. He wasn't just aggressive with opponents, he was willing to go to extreme lengths with anyone who stepped onto the field with him. Throughout his 16-season career, Romanowski played in a staggering 243 consecutive games, a feat that underscored his resilience and endurance. But more than anything, his legacy is that of a player who embraced the dark side of the game. Bill Romanowski wasn't just an opponent, he was a storm waiting to unleash, leaving a trail of battered bodies and a reputation as one of the most intimidating players to ever play the game. For anyone across the line, facing Romanowski wasn't just a matchup, it was a test of nerve. Speaking of testing nerves, next up is Conrad Dobler, a player who didn't just play offensive guard, but turned it into a battlefield of psychological warfare against anyone bold enough to face him. Known as pro football's dirtiest player, Dobler didn't shy away from controversy. He leaned into it, creating an on-field persona that left opponents not just beaten, but humiliated. And he didn't mind bending a few rules, or breaking them outright to get the job done. Dobler's antics were legendary. In one infamous incident, he spat on an injured Philadelphia's linebacker, Bill Bergey, showing the kind of cold disregard for opponents. And when he went up against the Rams' formidable Merlin Olsen, Dobler didn't hesitate to kick Olsen in the head, cementing his reputation as a player who'd do whatever it took to gain the upper hand. But Dobler's intensity wasn't just for show, it was effective. He was a crucial part of the St. Louis Cardinals' offensive line, a unit that allowed a record-low 8 sacks during the 1975 season. His ruthless style helped create an impenetrable wall, keeping his quarterback safe and opponents in constant frustration. Conrad Dobler wasn't just another player. He was an enforcer who used every dirty trick in the book to make his presence known. For those unlucky enough to face him, it wasn't just about getting past a guard. It was about surviving the wrath of a player who saw the game as a battlefield. But if Conrad Dobler was known for bending the rules, Ndamukong Suh took it to another level in the modern era. Suh wasn't just a defensive tackle. He was a wrecking machine with a reputation for pushing both opponents and the rulebook to the limit. From his very first season, Suh made it clear he wasn't there to play nice. His physicality was unmatched, and he brought an edge to the game that left offensive players constantly looking over their shoulders. With Suh, it wasn't just about making the tackle. It was about making his presence known in a way that left a lasting impression. One of Suh's most infamous moments came in 2011 on Thanksgiving Day, when he stomped on the arm of Packers offensive lineman Evan Dietrich Smith after the play was over. The incident led to an ejection and a suspension, but for Suh, it was just another chapter in his reputation as one of the NFL's most feared enforcers. Later, in a game against the Green Bay Packers, he appeared to step on Aaron Rodgers' leg after a play, another incident that earned him a suspension. Yet Suh's aggressive play wasn't just about crossing lines, it was effective. His power and quickness made him a dominant force, and he regularly bulldozed his way through double teams to get to the quarterback. His combination of size, speed, and sheer power left offensive linemen scrambling, and even quarterbacks had to adjust their timing, knowing Suh was coming for them. Ndamukong Suh didn't just disrupt plays, he created chaos. He was the kind of player who could control a game, not just by overpowering opponents, but by instilling a sense of fear and unpredictability. For those lining up against him, Suh was more than just a tackle. They were facing a relentless force who was prepared to make every play a personal battle. Next up is a player whose terrifying hits weren't the only thing opponents dreaded. He got inside their heads, dominating the mental game with his relentless trash talk. Standing at 6'1" and 290 pounds, John Randle might have been considered undersized, but his ferocity, speed, and unyielding energy made him one of the scariest players in NFL history. From his face paint to his legendary trash talk, everything about Randle screamed intimidation. Randle didn't just outplay his opponents, he outthought them. His trash talking was legendary. Offensive linemen not only had to contend with his raw talent, but also his psychological warfare. And when the ball was snapped, his speed and explosiveness turned every play into a nightmare for quarterbacks. He ended his career with 137.5 sacks, the most ever by a defensive tackle. One of Randle's most iconic performances came in a 1996 game against the Green Bay Packers, where he recorded 3.5 sacks and forced 2 fumbles, overwhelming even the resilient Brett Favre. Randle's relentless motor and passion meant he never let up, whether it was the first play of the game or the last. What made Randle truly terrifying was his energy. He played every snap with the intensity of a rookie fighting for his place, even making seasoned veterans fear lining up against him. For anyone who faced him, John Randle wasn't just a player. He was a nightmare in shoulder pads, a living storm on the field. He didn't just disrupt plays, he redefined what it meant to be a dominant defensive tackle. John Randle was all about relentless pressure and mind games, but Steve Atwater brought a different kind of fear. Known as the Smiling Assassin, Atwater was a safety who patrolled the field like a heat-seeking missile, waiting for the perfect moment to deliver a hit that would leave opponents reeling. His opponents knew one thing: if you came into Atwater's territory, he delivered hits that could rattle a player to their core. One of his most iconic moments came during the 1990 season in a Monday Night Football showdown with the Kansas City Chiefs. Atwater laid out the 260-pound running back Christian Okoye, known as the Nigerian Nightmare, in a collision that sent shockwaves through the league. Okoye, who was known for bulldozing defenders, met his match that night, and Atwater's hit became an instant NFL classic, a reminder that even the biggest, toughest players weren't safe. Atwater's presence in the secondary was nothing short of intimidating. With a combination of size, speed, and impeccable timing, he turned the field into a dangerous place for any receiver or running back daring enough to cross his path. Atwater played with a controlled aggression that balanced discipline with a desire to dominate. And while his nickname, the Smiling Assassin, hinted at his calm demeanor, his hits were anything but friendly. A 2-time Super Bowl champion, an 8-time Pro Bowler, Atwater's legacy is defined by his ability to control the game through fear. He wasn't just a safety. He was a force that disrupted offenses and left players wary of every step they took. Steve Atwater made it clear, if you came his way, you'd feel it. If Steve Atwater was the Smiling Assassin, delivering bone-crushing hits with a deceptive grin, Ronnie Lott was the embodiment of relentless intensity and unyielding toughness. Lott's career is filled with moments that exemplify his fearsome reputation. In a 1985 game against the Dallas Cowboys, Lott's finger was severely injured while tackling running back Timmy Newsome. Faced with the choice of undergoing surgery that would sideline him or amputating the tip of his finger to continue playing, Lott chose the latter, opting to have part of his pinky removed to stay on the field. This decision not only showcased his toughness, but also sent a clear message to opponents about his commitment and resilience. Lott's versatility allowed him to excel at both cornerback and safety, and his ability to read offenses made him a constant threat. He led the NFL in interceptions twice, with 10 in 1986 and 8 in 1991. and his 63 career interceptions rank among the best in league history. His hard-hitting style and instinctive play disrupted offenses and instilled fear in receivers who knew that crossing into his territory could result in a punishing hit. A 4-time Super Bowl champion and 10-time Pro Bowler, Lott's legacy is defined by his relentless pursuit of excellence and his ability to intimidate and dominate. He wasn't just a player, he was a force of nature on the field, and his presence alone was enough to alter the course of a game. Ronnie Lott's career is a testament to the impact a single player can have on the game of football. His intensity, toughness, and unwavering commitment made him one of the most feared and respected players in NFL history. If Ronnie Lott was the embodiment of relentless intensity, Ray Nitschke was the personification of raw, unbridled aggression on the football field. As the heart of the Green Bay Packers defense during the 1960s, Nitschke's presence was a constant source of dread for opposing offenses. Nitschke's career is replete with moments that underscore his fearsome reputation. In the 1962 NFL Championship game against the New York Giants, played under brutal conditions at Yankee Stadium, Nitschke's performance was nothing short of legendary. He recovered 2 fumbles and deflected a pass that led to an interception, earning him the game's Most Valuable Player award. His relentless pursuit and bone-jarring tackles were pivotal in the Packers' 16-7 victory, cementing his status as a defensive powerhouse. Known for his hard-hitting style, Nitschke was an athletic, all-around linebacker who also intercepted 25 passes over his career. His ability to read offenses and anticipate plays made him a constant threat, and his hits left a lasting impression on those who dared to cross his path. A 5-time NFL champion and 2-time Super Bowl winner, Nitschke's legacy is defined by his ferocity and leadership on the field. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1978, a testament to his impact on the game. Ray Nitschke wasn't just a linebacker, he was a force of nature, and his presence on the field was enough to alter the course of a game. With that, we've gotten to the moment you've all been waiting for. The scariest player in NFL history. Known for his relentless aggression, Rodney Harrison was a safety who played with a chip on his shoulder, and he made sure his opponents felt every ounce of it. He didn't just tackle, he punished, delivering hits that left wide receivers and running backs wary of crossing his path. Harrison's style was as fierce as it was controversial, racking up fines and suspensions throughout his career. But that only added to his mystique. He once knocked out 2 Colts receivers in a single game, sending a message that his territory wasn't a safe space to be. And for Harrison, that was exactly the point. Rodney Harrison wasn't just a defender, he was a guardian of the field, a player who turned every down into a battle. For anyone brave enough to challenge him, Harrison made sure they'd remember his name and think twice the next time. Bullying opponents might have been insane, but it's nothing compared to catching the ball with your butt cheeks, or making a catch that only had a 3% chance of happening. Click on the next video to see the craziest catches in NFL history.